So we know that psychological errors are the killers of most traders, right? In today's episode of the Trading Coach Podcast, we're going to talk about the best way to rid these psychological errors by flipping the probabilities in your favor. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you leave the Trading Coach Podcast a rating and a review. That is the best way you can support the show. Thank you in advance, and I hope you guys enjoy. The answer is there's no best answer. There's no best. Everything is a give and a take, right? And a clue that is going to be that there is no best is going to be the answer for almost every question you ask in trading, aside from like, should I use a stop loss? Where the answer is, of course, you should use a stop loss. But there's a gift and a curse, right? And again, it's typically we don't know the answer until we see the outcome. Where again, if this thing dives down, then yes, active trade management helped me. If this thing continues up, then boo, active trade management hurt me. What you're looking for is not what is the best on an individual trade by trade basis, because just like wins and losses, we never know what the outcome is going to be, but what is going to be the most beneficial to your trading, both monetarily and psychologically, right? That's a very important point as well. What's going to be most beneficial to your trading, both technically, monetarily, and psychologically in the long run. And I say psychologically because it's very hard to watch a trade go hundreds of pips in your favor and then turn around and take all of that away, right? That causes a lot of emotion. Those emotions trigger a lot of actions, bad actions. Those bad actions trigger a lot of bad trades, and bad trades equal losses of money. So part of managing your trading is also managing yourself. How can I avoid bad psychological states? What can I do to not put myself in these bad psychological positions, right? It's very similar. And I got to teach my kids this at some point in their life, not right now, but so I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Not the greatest place in the world, thanks to like Baltimore and Chicago. We're not the most murderous place in the U.S., but we're typically up there. We're top of the table when it comes to like crime and murder, unfortunately. And one of the best lessons that I learned growing up was that, and my dad taught me this, dad and mom taught me this, was that be very careful about your circle. And we even teach to this day at Tier 1 Trading, where we talk about, hey, if you want to be, that's why many of you guys are here. If you want to be successful, you surround yourself by successful people, right? You are going to be the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's 100% true. And I was always told that, like, hey, stuff happens. I was a good kid, so I wasn't making too much trouble. But like, you don't want to be around your friends that are going to create trouble. Or, if there's a lot of crime and murder and drugs happening, the best way not to get caught up in that stuff is just don't put yourself in that situation. So if you're not hanging out on the block at, 2 a.m. in the morning, you have a much less likely chance of, getting shot in a drug deal or getting arrested because you're around someone that sells drugs or whatnot. So the best way, right, when we thought about it in odds and probabilities, because my dad always told me that his goal for me was to make it to age 18 alive, not in jail, and with no kids. Because the stats said that as an African-American male from Philadelphia, or in general, that wasn't the case, right? The odds were that one of those 3 things were going to happen to you before you were 18. So my whole goal in life, the carrot that he laid out for me was make it to 18 with none of these things. So we started looking at things in probabilities, right? What can I do to avoid having kids? What can I do to avoid going to jail? What can I do to avoid, being murdered and killed and stuff like that? And a massive way to flip the probabilities in your favor is just to avoid certain situations. And I have many friends that didn't avoid certain situations, and it's sad stories come with that. But that's one of the main lessons I learned. And trading is the same way, right? We know that, again, going back to the conversation I had with Dennis yesterday and this morning, the philosophy or the formula to successful trading is simple, right? Consistent analysis plus consistent execution equals consistent results. And you're assuming that you have an edge that's back tested and proven to work, right? If you have something that you have tested and the numbers show you that it's in your favor, you just need to consistently do it. I'm just speaking to a guy over the break on Twitter who was telling me, let me just read the message to you guys and I can, you'll hear it out. Sorry for the rant, but today's a ranty day, and I'll get to your questions in a little bit. But I was planning on doing a podcast to this anyway, but maybe I'll just turn this into one. But he had a question. He said, Akil, I'm good at managing risk, but I'm struggling to know my odds of winning my trades. I'm struggling to know what the odds are winning in my trades are. I know it's a game of probabilities, but I should know when the odds are in my favor through my edge. I don't think I have the edge in the market that can help me eliminate gambling. Can you please give me your assistance? And I asked if you have back tested, right? Because if you back test it, you know your edge, right? Am I wrong? You should know your edge if you back test it, right? If you back test it, you should have pretty good confidence that, hey, I'm a 50% trader, so like I should win 10 out of every 20 trades, right? In the small picture, you should know your edge, and you should know kind of what your system produces. Is your system built to produce 100% return a year? Well, if it's not, then why are you upset over not returning 100%? If your system only tells you that, hey, 30% return, right, end of year, and your mags you didn't return 100, like, well, your system told you that, right? So I said, sure thing, right? Have you back tested your strategy, right? Because if you do, you should know your edge. He said, yes, I have. But, right? There's always a but. There's always a but. And you know what they say about butts? They always stink. Do they say that? I just made that up. They shouldn't always stink. But anyway, in this scenario, yes, I have. But in real situations, it works in a few occasions and doesn't work in many occasions. But during back testing, it works more often. I want you guys to chime in here. See if you can notice something that's different. Yes, I have back tested, but in real situations, it works in a few occasions and doesn't work in many occasions. But during back testing, it worked more often. I use mainly technicals, chart patterns, and verifying if the news before taking entry. And my next comment was, and did you take the news into account during your back testing? And the first response was, not really. I have tried doing that too, but I certainly don't have enough screens and systems to do that. I took news into account in a few occasions and discovered that on news days, my entries do not hold. That was when I decided to take entries after such news. But I have not really included news in my technical analysis for the reasons I stated above. So what you guys see the issue here? What is something that stands out to you? Inconsistency, right? Inconsistency in what? What specifically? What specifically? Dennis says he trades what he doesn't test. But how? What is the one thing? What was snuck into that equation? What was the virus that was snuck into that otherwise finely running operating system? The news, right? So he said he tested, but in testing he didn't take news into account. But in real life, he did take news into account. And this is something that a lot of traders do. We will self-sabotage, right? We will do everything right. But when it's time to go live, we either introduce something that is new because of whatever reason, greed and fear usually, or we'll take something out. This is the same if you guys have been here for a while. We've been having lots of conversation with Tom, right? Me and Tom have been smoking this euro yen. And Tom's been sharing a lot of his trade entries, and we've been on the same kind of page with stuff, but he's been saying one thing. He said, Akil, there's one problem. I got all this good analysis, but guess what I don't do? I haven't been taking the trades. Tom's been doing all this profitable analysis, great analysis, but he hasn't been taking the trades because when it comes time to take the trade, he gets a little nervous and second guesses himself. So this trader on Twitter or X, right? This is a good example of he's done everything right with testing, created his edge, but in real life, he's introduced something different into the equation. Tom is an example of doing everything right, but in real life, he's taking something out of the equation, right? Imagine you are making a meal and you're following you got a cookbook, old school, or you're following a recipe online and you do it step by step by step by step, but at the very end you just decide to add something random, or you decide to take something out, and then you make the meal and it comes out and it doesn't taste the way it's supposed to taste, and you get upset. Well, you did it. You did it. You did something different. You did something different. That's the problem. And a lot of it is emotionally driven. Greed and fear are the biggest ones. But we see the same thing with psychological mistakes. We do everything right, and then we let our psychological mistakes sabotage us. So if we know that psychological mistakes, doing something different, not doing something we're supposed to do, if that's the main killer of traders, that should be the main point of focus. Obviously, you need everything else, but you let's say you have that down. That's the main point of focus. As we go in and we try to get this virus out of our computer, we know what we're looking for. We know what's hurting our trading. We also know that we're human beings, and we are emotional. We have emotions, right? We can't fight it. It's just in our DNA, most of us. So the best way to avoid it, and this is why journaling helps so much, is to understand what triggers it. Understanding when these psychological mistakes happen and removing ourselves from that situation. So just how young Akil wasn't hanging out on the corner at 2 a.m. in the morning because it increases the probability of me being shot, arrested, or having kids. If we know that our certain psychological mistakes come up for certain reasons, what we need to do is we need to remove ourselves from that situation. Because if we remove ourselves from that situation, we're not even tempted to make that mistake. The temptation's not even there. And when you're not tempted to do something, you're a lot less likely to do it. Again, if you're on a diet, because it always goes back to the diet references. If you're middle-aged Akil eating sleeves of Oreos each day, and you're telling yourself, man, I'd be losing weight. I'd be getting chiseled again if I would just stop eating like 10 Oreos a day. The solution is this. Don't buy Oreos from the store. Because if you don't buy them from the store, they're never in your cabinet. If they're never in your cabinet, when you get that urge to look for it, it's not there. And then you have two choices. Either you eat something else and probably make a better choice, or you want it that bad that you give in, you hop into the car, you drive down to the store just to buy a sleeve of Oreos. And I can tell you what, if you want it that bad, there's another underlying problem there. In most cases, once you fight off that initial temptation to do something, once you can fight it off for that one that 30 seconds of wanting to do something, you forget all about it. You forget all about it. So trading is the same way. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hey, if you want to see more trading specific content, I'm talking about on chart stuff, technique, strategies, and whatnot, make sure you check out my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Akil Stokes. It'll pop right up. I've got daily videos, long form, short form, covering everything I know about trading. So check it out. Just YouTube search Akil Stokes. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button if you want to be notified on when my latest upload is uploaded.